All right, we are recording for Chapter 4 of the novelization of Star Trek the Motion Picture. And we don't have the weird 70s stuff like we've been seeing in some of the previous ones, so I'm happy. I still got issues with it, but at least I don't need to worry about that shit. Oh, boy. Okay, well, technically this might be a little bit of it. So we've got Kirk's going from Gibraltar back to San Francisco to Starfleet Command, Fleet Headquarters, or the Admiralty is like all the names for the building. It's like, is that accurate? Like, I'm genuinely curious. I wouldn't think you'd name the building the Admiralty, or call it that way. The Admiralty is just, to me, I think that's just the people in charge, the admirals of the Navy. But Starfleet Command, Fleet Headquarters, I mean, yeah, that's basically the same thing. But anyway, it mentions that, it's built up, like from the ground up to the sky, which is very appropriate. But also says in here, it's a distinctive landmark in this world where so much of the clutter of our lives has been placed underground. What? I mean, it doesn't go into any detail on what it's referring to by clutter of our lives, but it's like, no, I don't think we're building underground. I mean, unless it's talking about how, like, we've moved back. No, even then, you wouldn't want to move factories and such. I got no idea what it could be talking about. I mean, things like sewer lines are already underground. Maybe you're moving more power underground, but there's reasons not to. For anyone that's like, oh yeah, we should have power lines underground because that way they can't be snapped in the wind and such. It's like, yeah, but whenever you need to replace them, you now need to dig everything up. I mean, there is a genuine reason why electrical lines and such on poles make sense, because it's how you have easiest access. But it is a balancing act. In some situations, poles make sense. In other situations, no, burying the lines make more sense. But it means that's harder to maintain. Well, is it a situation where you don't expect much maintenance, or is it a situation like to a house where you expect a lot of maintenance potentially, and like changing the service in there, or just other things need to be run, like a cable connection for that coax running in for cable channels for phone. The phone line would be its own thing, and or it could be its own thing, as well as internet over there. I mean, it's like you already need the pole for all that stuff, so we'll very likely need it anyway. Okay, I'm trying to remember. Where exactly is it? Okay. Oh, yeah. There's also that. It describes it. Yeah, just under 2 hours ago, Kirk had taken the tube from Gibraltar to Los Angeles Island. We caught the first northbound air tram. It's like the tube from Gibraltar to L.A. It might not be, fully halfway around, but what tube are you talking about? I'm like, that this legitimately makes no sense to me. That you're running. I mean, what? What? And the idea that the way it's described, it makes it sound like it's direct. What? I mean, no. I mean, even ignoring the whole, we can't get a damn thing to go from LA to San Francisco. Even though ignoring that, it still is. You're not running a non-stop line from Gibraltar to LA. Why would you? You'd run like Gibraltar over to New York or DC, Baltimore, somewhere like that then splits off. But like that's a point where things are. What are you talking about here? Now, for anyone wondering, I got no issue with it. Like we're not using transporters. I mean, for one thing, I know coming up in the movie at least, his transporter accident that kills a person. So I understand that. But it's like a tube? We got shuttles. I mean, we got shuttles. It's what I kind of describe, I don't think I went in much detail in A Letter from Catherine, is the idea that, well, there's a bunch of orbiting satellites that act, they're ports in part, but if you wanted to cross the world, you'd literally take a shuttle, because there's a bunch, like buses almost, they would go up to one, and then you'd bring that to come down, so it'd almost be ballistic. I mean, it's not, because it's stopping at the top and then coming back down, but it's like, that's reasonable, I think. tube is not. A shuttle that would just be like an airplane that'd fly over, that's reasonable. But a tube? Because I'm assuming whatever it is, it's essentially land rail. Except it has to go over the Atlantic Ocean. No. Or maybe you're going under and drilling through, but again, no. Because there's something in the Atlantic that's kind of important. It's called the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. It's kind of a place where the tectonic plates are pushing out. That's not a place you want to build something that you don't want breaking across. Actually, now I am kind of... Well, no, that might be far enough south. Well, sorry, far enough north. The ridge might be far enough south. There is actually... It's one of those funny things that there is a ridge towards the north of the Atlantic that it's like... It's straight across. It's weird that it is there. But we actually have a lot of telecommunication lines running between North America and Europe there. And it's like one of those, I think it was a History Channel thing with showing the topographic maps of the base of the ocean. It's like, wow, that's like perfect. I mean, it's literally straight across, and it's a plateau. It's even. It's like, huh, we can actually drop a line. I mean, it's like, wow, it's wild. It also reminds me of something. Yeah, why not share that story? I think it is actually a book as well, I'm not sure. Little fun fact. It has nothing to do with Star Trek. But, connecting the continents across the Atlantic Ocean was a very big deal. And there's a movie called A Dispatch from Reuters, and I believe that it is based on a book. I don't remember if it's of the same name. But in any case, it's following Reuter, who... Basically how he tried to form what we ultimately became what is still called Reuters, that the idea was he wasn't reporting the news. He was just he would distribute the news. So you would have a contract with him. The AP is also like this, although I think the AP is also writing stuff. But it's like, it is... newspapers would have connections with Reuters, and then Reuters would send the information out to all of them at the same time. Anyway. Coming up with a better connection between North America and Europe was a huge deal. Whoever would achieve that first, the fastest connection, would become the most significant wire service. And so, as I recall in the movie, and I would assume this is accurate, what they would have to do is you'd have a ship that crosses the Atlantic, and it would have the news on there. And normally it would be like from America, the ship would just go all the way over to the UK. So you'd have to wait on that. But he came up with the plan, or at least somebody in there did, to run a telegraph wire from the westmost island off of Ireland to the UK. So that way the news could actually be thrown off the ship near that island. It would drift over to it. It would be picked up. They could look at the message and then send it over the wire. Now, here's the thing. Now, some of the details of that I'm not certain of, because it was the movie. But one thing that this is actually true. What was the first message? Because you'd think that needs to be a test message. But it was actually the news of Lincoln being shot. Yep, because it was that news had just come in, and it's like, okay, we're ready to send a test message. No, send this. Because like this needs to get over there. All right, so it's, yeah. And because of this, it's actually very interesting how the movie depicts it, and some of it I believe is accurate. Well, I don't know how accurate, I should say. But they show, because Reuters is now reporting it, they show things like the UK lowering their flag to half staff, and also there being a huge rush on the market, because like the death or imminent death of a world leader, that's going to hit the stock market, leads to all these problems. But then somebody starts realizing, wait a minute, only Reuters is reporting this. No one else is reporting it. He probably made it up, and all that. They show the flag going back up, all that, and they actually have they're then holding a hearing in Parliament about how they can punish him. And they do have him, whose Reuters is played by Edward G. Robinson. They have him up in the balcony there watching this as they're debating how basically, yes, we need to strip him of everything. We need to sue him for all the money lost from in the stock market. It's like, we need to absolutely destroy this man because this is so horrible. Basically modern day canceling, but even further, because they think it was a lie. They think it was misinformation. But then the ship did actually dock, and the news comes in, and it's like handed to I don't remember what the head of parliament would be, but like then stands up and is like, we've just gotten confirmation that President Lincoln has been shot, and everyone's like, it's just quiet, and it's like, oh, he was right. And so then they apologize to him, which the movie then ends on something somewhat amusing. Wait, he Robinson stands up and accepts the apology, but also does correct one thing. They've been pronouncing his name Reuter the entire time. He's like, it's pronounced Reuter. It is an amusing movie, and a very interesting movie, because, as I said, I'm not sure how much of that is accurate, but in any case, just the thinking about the communications there. And this is also... I'm just trying to think of the best way to kind of circle this back to Star Trek. It is the idea of just an arbitrary tube between Gibraltar and LA. I do have a problem with that, because there were real struggles for even just connecting the east coast of New York to Europe. Well, sorry, New York. East coast of North America to Europe. There were struggles for that. And just be like, oh yeah, we're going to have this arbitrary thing. It's like, you're kind of ignoring the fact that there are difficulties here, and you shouldn't ignore those difficulties. It doesn't matter that it's like, oh, well, it can be. It's still like, yeah, but should it be done? Would you actually connect those 2 points? Are those 2 points significant enough to have a direct connection? I don't think so. So you can't neglect that, okay? Yeah, and it's... because that is a concern that building up a live shows like that you would have there. And it's... yeah, and also the whole draining of the Mediterranean. No, you're not doing that, because the Mediterranean itself provides things that, to take it away, you're more likely to do harm than good. So, yeah. Also reminds me of another story. In at least one town in Wisconsin, they changed all the streetlights from using incandescent bulbs to LEDs, and regretted that the first winter. Because, turns out, well, yeah, basically, incandescent bulbs are not that inefficient. When they get snow covered, the heat melts, so you could actually see the things. The LEDs couldn't do that. So it's like, it's more energy efficient, except that the inefficiency was practical. Yeah, so they had to completely change it, and I'm not sure what they did. I doubt they put the incandescents back in. More likely they had to wire up heaters. Which, I mean, to be fair, you wouldn't have to run them all the time, but it still is like, yeah, that you do need to think things through like that. And it is kind of my point as well with, you need to think about the stuff that went in, that was involved before. And make sure you're covering all the points when you're writing something. You can't just be arbitrary, oh, we're going to do this, because there will be consequences. And... well, to be fair, sometimes exploring those consequences is, in fact, a very good thing to do within the story and can add to the health. But it is the consequences need to be considered either before the decision or after the decision. That I guess, is how I can say it before moving on. Okay, I just want to... does mention how Kirk is angry as he's walking around Starfleet Command at this point, mostly with himself, because he's realizing that he has been manipulated. And I do put a note in here, because just how it was written, it did make me a little annoyed. Because, like, yeah, I don't care that, I mean, fine, you're angry, whatever. That's not the moment right. The moment right now is to act, not to act out. So that's more of a, you better not screw up how the rest of this chapter goes. Fortunately, I would say that doesn't happen. It is just... it's more like he just has a righteous fury in him, that he's not here to crack heads. He's not here to make a scene. He's here to get shit done. So it goes on, talks a little bit about Nagoya, who is the commanding admiral. And I did find how this was written a little odd, but anyway. Yeah, that was written as a little odd. Because, like, I have a criticism, but then it answers criticism at, like, the end of the paragraph following. But Kirk's value was to Nagoya, commanding admiral, whose oath it was to make any sacrifice or pay any cost necessary to fulfilling his responsibilities to his beloved Starfleet. It's like Kirk is just realizing that his value is to that version of the man, as opposed to the man who's like a great-grandfather a dozen times over. and who he's known for many, many years. It's like, yeah, but in that case, then you can't actually be angry with him because you took the same oath, Kirk. I mean, you can be upset with him over how he has conducted himself with trying to fulfill those responsibilities. And it's also one of those things. Well, let me read the next thing. The new humans among Earth's population had become increasingly critical of Starfleet's cost, of Starfleet's aims, and of its values. And this is the justification for why Nagoya decided to essentially bench Kirk, to make him the living hero on Earth instead of putting him out where no one sees him. And it's like, okay, I can understand that. It's faulty, but I can understand that. Here's why it's faulty. Because he's a hero because of his actions. He's not a hero because of how he looks. He's not a hero because of his proximity. So you bring him back in, you give him the hero story, but then you send him out again, and you just try to make sure, you know what? Yeah, you're going to do the deep space exploration. We got to have you do. But we're also going to give you some missions while you're out there that, they look good for PR. Like, make sure you are not forgotten. You are the poster child of Starfleet so that people aren't so... Well, people cannot give into their foolishness that, oh, well, we're not at war, we should cut this... Which is stupid also, because, Klingon Empire is still an adversary. So are the Romulans. And, there's many other intelligent species out there. You still need a military, people. And then there is, of course, the whole line of Starfleet's mission has always been one of peace and scientific exploration. That is one thing that I am glad that, in Deep Space Nine, when it was like, yes, officially Starfleet does not make warships. You are fucking morons, okay? So officially, the Defiant is an escort vessel. It just happens to have the, firepower of large capital ships, but hey. I mean, it's like, why would you not have warships? I mean, Constitution class, especially the refit, that is the best looking ship in all of Starfleet, in my opinion. It is handsome and it has class. Nothing else compares to it. The Galaxy class of TNG is probably the next most famous starship design in Star Trek, and I can believe that a lot of people loved it because they grew up with TNG. That's fair. But it's also a really dumb design because it's basically a cruise liner. For it can house 1,000 people. That's not all crew. A lot of it is just people living there. I mean, it's like in some cases it's their families. Like, to use Miles O'Brien as the example, his wife and daughter live there. But before they were married, Keiko was just on the ship as a botanist. Why? I'm sorry, it's just and then in the Dominion War, you see a whole bunch of Galaxy class ships being used in war. It's like, what? What? Why would you do this? I get it. That's what they have, and it's a powerful platform. But it's like it is so silly, this idea that you would have. As I said, it's a cruise liner. That's what the Galaxy class is. It's a freaking cruise liner. So yeah, But anyway, I do understand this idea that you're basically going to have ignorant people that, because they're safe where they are, thinking, oh, that means then that we don't need any of these means that protect us. That, I'm comfortable in my own home, and so I can lock out the rest of the world and all of those concerns, all those fears there. So we don't need to have any preparation. We don't need to have any protection, because isn't it just wonderful? It's like, you're only enjoying it because people are prepared, because people are protecting you, okay? It's just... I wonder if this is Roddenberry trying to say that... Because already we had the criticism that these new humans that are so intelligent that because they can rationalize anything, any new species they encounter can manipulate the hell out of them. I wonder if it's also he's trying to criticize that humanity has developed to this point of enlightenment, that they're actually so freaking stupid that they'd be the most easily conquered, militarily conquered species, most easily conquered of any at any point in time. It's like, maybe? But even then, I'd reject that because my vocation is not anything that is like police or military. It's none of that. But there are people that is genuinely what their vocation is. This is their purpose in life. Okay? I feel my vocation is probably writing. It might also be sharing to a degree, and writing is just one way I'm able to do that. But it's like, you're going to have those people. You're going to have the people, not just Kirk, who is of lower intelligence and who keeps a surname because that whole thing made no sense. But it's like you're going to have people that is their calling. Okay? Why you're diminishing that and trying to make it sound like these enlightened people, fail to realize that. Unless it is you trying to make fun of them, it's a stupid idea. I mean, it's like even the lowest job you might be able to think of can still be somebody's truly held vocations. Like even if you would think like a garbage man, it's like, yeah, sure, that seems lower, but it's also they're keeping the cities clean. That's a wonderful vocation to have. That's a wonderful job to have if that is what your desire is. Okay, I mean, it's also guaranteed work, because you're always going to be needed. If you're working in a sewer, same kind of thing. Where it's like, yeah, it might stink, literally, but you are you're helping to maintain a clean and ordered society. That's wonderful. No one should look down on that. I can understand not wanting that job, but you should certainly respect it. And that shouldn't be an especially enlightened view. So, yeah, I'm really hoping it is meant to mock this new human concept that he has, that he's putting that forward there and mocking the hell out of it. Because if he's writing that as though he believes that's where humanity would actually go, I mean, the idiots, yeah, but anyway. Then we got a thing here that Vulcans are stupid now. As Commander Sonak. Sonak turned, startled to have his name called in public. On Vulcan, it would have been a shameful breach of privacy. Huh? So this is just Kirk's walking by. He's going to see Nagoya, spots Sonak there, who he knows is the science officer for the Enterprise. So it's like, sees him there and is like going to start talking. It's like, what are you doing here? Well, Decker thought it would be best if I, attend a science briefing before going. But the Enterprise needs to be leaving. It'll be leaving in 20 hours. It's leaving in 12, and I'll be on it. Okay. But it's like, what is this idea of it? It's a breach of Vulcan privacy to have his name called. It's like, how you can get his attention when he's far away? I mean, what? What? And also, is privacy in a public setting logical? I mean, regardless, it's like, you need to have your name called out at times. That's not a breach of privacy. It's like, dude, you're standing there, you're walking there, and somebody needs to get your attention. What else are you supposed to go? Hey, pointy ears. What? Hey, logician. I mean, it's like, what? Commander Sonak. I mean, it's like, that's not inappropriate. Also, what the hell did they do in basic training? Because I assume there's a lot of yelling at people in basic training. And I'm sorry, Starfleet, I expect would have some. It's like, part of this is because my hatred of Star Trek Enterprise. I really despise how the Vulcans are portrayed in there. So seeing such nonsense here as well is just, it's triggering that hatred, is making it boil a bit more than it really should, because it's just stupid. But I'm more energized because I hate the depiction there, and it's, yeah. Anyway, see, I already told you what he said. So he now is like actually going to meet Nagoya. But there is this question: was today's Kirk a better captain than the alert and upcoming young Decker. How much had Kirk been damaged by almost 3 years on the ground in an unfamiliar and unhappy environment? It's a very reasonable question. And one that if you know the movie, you do know that, yes, he does in fact have some issues, because he doesn't know the refit Enterprise like Deckard does. But it is also worth noting, Kirk is a far more experienced officer, okay? I'm saying you could be great on paper, but experience can still kick your ass. I'm just trying to think what's... Well, I mean, in a way, in Wrath of Khan, Kirk's experience, even in the final battle there, Khan is also very experienced, but not in space warfare. Kirk is. He needs to be reminded of it by Spock, but it's still, he's able to, without sensors, just is able to maneuver himself and come up behind Khan. I mean, it's like that experience is great, and would Decker have thought of that? Not necessarily, because he's inexperienced. At least I'm assuming he is. Then we get this that is somewhat interesting. Oh, come on. Don't do that. There we go. So he's been trying to make his... Well, actually, no, after... A lot of this is actually just describing how they're looking, but anyway. The entire staff considered this at length, Jim, said Nagoya. I'm afraid that every point you've made has already been carefully considered. Admiral, these points were neither carefully nor properly considered since I was not present. Kirk knew that his only chance now was to challenge Nagoya directly. And now that I am present, I submit that it is your responsibility to inform me of whatever negative arguments were made against my selection. Now, we then get another thing here trying to defend this, but it's like, nah, not needed. That is clearly an impassioned challenge of Nagoya. But I'd say that's still, it is not disrespectful. It isn't completely... To a commanding officer, I can see that not being respectful, but they have a familiarity that's quite old. Kirk, presumably they are alone, so it's like Kirk can address him more as an equal. He knows he is subordinate, but he can address him as an equal here, and that's basically what he's doing is, hey, what are you talking about that things been carefully considered? Who argued for my case? Because I wasn't there to do it, and I'm the only one that can. Right? You're making these decisions without everything, without all the consideration, and I'm calling you out on that. And I think that's a very fair point. And I think it's made fairly as well. And that's, I think, the last I got here. I'll quickly look over this. I don't think... Oh, yeah, I did also have that. I do like the whole... and I kind of said in a previous video, I like that this was happening. Hey, I might be able to keep this video short. I liked that he just told Sonak, I'm going to be on the Enterprise, and we're leaving in 12 hours. I like that that's what's happening. Because he's an admiral. He should be able to just say that. Say, Nagoya, I don't care if you're giving me command or not. I'm on the Enterprise. All right? I'm going to be on it. And it's like, he does end up getting command, so Decker is his first officer then. Or executive officer, something like that. I don't remember precisely, but it's like... That is, when you think about it, the most appropriate place. Like, calmer heads, it should be... Kirk and he are essentially co-captains. That Decker knows the ship. And technically that makes sense for him being first officer. While Kirk is in command. That makes sense. Because that way you can hopefully balance between them, but I'm expecting that there's going to be... Kirk's arrogance will come into play, that he feels that he knows better than he actually does. But also, my understanding is that there is going to be animosity from Decker towards Kirk as well. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But no, I am glad that it's like, I'm an admiral. I can just do this. Well, there's admirals above you. Yeah. I can still just do this because I'm an admiral. They're not... I mean, you really... What's Nagoya going to say? You can't. You can't be in command of the Enterprise. Fine, I'm still going to station myself on that. That shall be my flagship. It's like, you can't do that. issue the orders, then I'll be on it and we'll be gone before the orders are actually delivered. I mean, it's like, why can't he just be like, no, this is what's happening? And I like that he was basically being having that attitude to Sonak. Okay, yeah. Yeah, and the last thing, I'll just say, I already said it, I'll just say it, this, that his challenge to Nagoya, it is a definite challenge that is called for. It's like, it is an entirely appropriate challenge for Kirk to have against him, because, dude, you're making political decisions. This is not the time for political decisions. You've been manipulating me. I'm pissed. But you know what? Doesn't matter. We need to move forward. We need to get this shit on the road, because, in case you haven't noticed, we got, a thing several times larger than the sun coming at us at warp 7. Sorry, it's just the scale stuff. And I'm trying to remember, what does actually warp 7 translate? That is one thing. I know I need to be stopping, but warp scales are really weird. Like, if you look at them, they're technically logarithmic, I want to say, but it's still kind of oddly shaped. And they do change them. It's like, that is actually part of the canon, so that it explains why you've got the Enterprise in the original series traveling at very high warp speeds, but then in TNG and such, they're now seemingly traveling at the same warp factor, yet going much slower. The answer is pretty simple. They were just throwing out numbers for the original series. But for TNG, they tried to have it be more firm as to what it is, with the idea that warp 10 is an infinite speed, that you exist at all points in the universe at the same time. Transwarp is supposed to achieve that, but at in a different fashion, by the way. That is the actual explanation for what transwarp is. But then you've got, in All Good Things, warp 13, which is like, well, no, you're not actually surpassing warp 10. They change again. I mean, it's just, there's a reason why some of this I just don't bother with numbers in my own writing. And hey, if you want to plot it all out and do that in your own writing, do it. Go right ahead. But you make sure you figure this out to the extremes. Because, I mean, it's like, one issue I can see is like, warp 9, warp 9.1, 9.2, 9.3. And potentially, those increments might actually be, are they very large, very small, compared to warp 5 to 5.1, 5.2, because a logarithmic scale is nonlinear, so that can be a thing. I mean, it's kind of like how, well, no, that's not, well, that may work. For video in general, frame rate, the difference between 30 and 60 is more than 60 to 120 frames per second. Pretty sure that's right. It's been a while since I've actually written that out, but yeah, because 30 to 60 is 33 and a third to 16 and 2/3. So it's, yeah, but 120 to, so that distance is 16 and 2/3. But 120 to 60 is only 8 and a third. So it's half the distance in the actual time it takes to render a single frame. So yeah, it's non-linear stuff is, it gets complicated. So it's like, either, work that out, or you can do what I do, which is like, yeah, just kind of, it is what it is. And don't get into the specifics. Just talk about the generalities. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Getting specific can be nice, but it is, then you got to make sure you got that system worked out. You got it written down. You can refer to it. And hey, if you get popular, then that might be something you make sure you put out there, so that people can read and understand for themselves. Like the crap, blanking what they're called, but there's a name for that, like, supplementary material. You can have it be official, which it'll be interesting whenever I go through and do this stuff with definitely the Children of Many Gifts. Because I know there's stuff in that where some things are kind of technical that if you've read Failure, you might pick up on, but other things, no. And it's legitimately, I just didn't write it because character you're following at the time doesn't know it. So yeah, that'll be fun. But yeah, I mean, it's like having those other resources, and not just in here but written down. Definitely recommend doing that. And hey, it's also a way that you might be able to work on scale, because, as I've said before, I'll say it now, and I'm sure I'll say it many times in the future, scale is what science fiction seems to get wrong the most. Let's try to change that. See you next time.